Welcome to Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Jesse Ott, the host of this podcast, which is all about beverage innovation. I talk with innovation pioneers from agriculture to glass. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Hello, everybody. I am Jesse Ott with Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have the Silk Road crew here. We've got Yanick and Keaton. Welcome. Welcome to Thursdays.
Hi, thanks for having us. Hello, Jesse. Thank you for having us.
So we're kind of going through an experiment here. I'm changing up the format from what I did all of last year. So we want to jump right into the brand and do the tasting. We've got 4 amazing wines we're going to try today. And we want to make sure that if, you as a listener can only get the first 20 minutes or 25 minutes, you hear all about the brand, which is the focus of this particular podcast. But we're going to go into the journey of Yanick and how he formed this company. Also, we're going to have another segment about Georgian wine specifically. So he's got a lot of knowledge and he wants to share it with us, and I get the opportunity to share it with the world. So I'm the privileged one here. I'm so excited. So let's jump in right into the Silk Road brand and story. So do you want to kind of start on how it started and when you guys kind of formulated the idea of starting this brand?
Well, we started the Silk Road brand in 2019, and we had our team kind of come up with the concept that delivered the history of Georgian wine in that one name, which was so because it was a birthplace of wine. The Silk Road is the way that winemaking process that went to Europe, Asia, and Africa. And that's how we wanted to connect those two things together. Our whole team worked on coming up with that name.
And why was it called the Silk Road?
The Silk Road was a trading route that went from basically, one of the routes went through Georgia, from all the way from the east to the west. And on that route, the traders then took wine and winemaking process and spread it and shared with everybody else.
Okay, that's really cool. Is there any particular reason they called it the Silk Road, or did they do some exchanges or something that was a basis for that?
I think the original Silk Road involved lots of trading of spices and silk products, especially from India. And then we kind of took it as a way to then kind of mimic how winemaking spread from Georgia, originating there, and then used the Silk Road to spread out to other parts of the world. Some people were like, oh, what is this fermented grape juice? It's really tasty. And then they started making it in other places. And so we're kind of mimicking that. We're creating a new Silk Road for ourselves, where we will once again disseminate the world's oldest wine growing region to the rest of the world in a more modern sense.
I like it. That's a great story. I really love that. So right out of the gates, this is so fun. Okay. So 2019, wow. So you're a fairly young company then.
Well, I actually started the wine import business, Georgia wine import business in 2013, 2014 is when I received my first container. That was right after I left the active duty army. I decided, to do something very different and something more fun for a living. And I couldn't find a better way to do it than to share this wonderful wine with the people. So I started quite, almost 10 years ago almost.
We actually have a bottle here of his first original label. Stylite was the name of the brand, and
interesting.
We've grown a lot since then. But as you can imagine, with launching in 2019, something very big and interesting happened the very next year, which kind of changed the way everyone approached buying and selling wine and everything else. So we kind of entered the world at a tumultuous time and required us to be kind of scrappy and not necessarily go in the traditional avenues. But we found a way to find our pocket in a lot of really unique markets that I think continuing to grow and will continue.
Yeah. So, and we kind of hit it off pretty well. We are actually presenting our wine to the Universal Studios, parks and restaurants and hotels. There, the whole team. They tasted our wines. They flipped over it. They said, "Do you want this wine in our stores ASAP?"
Wow.
It took us 1 week to kind of get through the vendor packet, and the following week everything shut down, and it was kind of the biggest kind of toughest moment for us.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was good and bad, but yeah, we took some time to reorganize, re-strategize, update our labels. Our labels definitely needed some help. And we made the biggest breakthrough in Florida first, which was entering ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. We are the first Georgian brand to ever get into ABC and stay
nice.
there. So, important decision. And our sales on ABC are going more higher and higher. So somebody's really liking it, enjoying this wine.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's that whole liquid to lips concept where you got to get them to try it, and then the rest is in the bottle. And if the rest is in the bottle and the quality's there, you're going to get your repeat purchase. So, it's just getting people to try it, through a demo or through friends or family or a restaurant, it's harder, I think, to pull it off the shelf than it is to see it on a wine menu, because if you're at a location and you only have a few wines to pick from, it's a lot easier. Or if it's on the by the glass, it's a lot easier than trying to find it on the shelves. So I'm curious, how do you classify these grapes then? If you are going to be, I guess we should back up a little bit here and talk about the grapes and the varietals, because from what I understand, there's at least 500 of them.
Just about right. About 500 grape varietals, indigenous grape varietals in Georgia.
Yeah, which is absolutely fantastic. And is there a particular reason that you feel that this region can support all those different varietals?
Well, the soil is perfect. Just like the French have their regions where they grow specific grapes and make specific wines, Georgia is just like that. They have 42 PDOs, and they know through the history of winemaking how well certain grapes perform in certain regions, and that's why they've been doing it long enough. They know what works and what doesn't work.
And adding in there, PDOs are like appellation-controlled microzones that are specifically protected to wines from these regions look like this and have this stylistic prop.
Right. And they are called by that specific name, just like the Bordeaux has their name. So they'll call instead of the grape varietal, they'll call that wine by that region.
Okay.
One of the examples is, actually two that you have. Manavi is one of those microregions, even though it's made with the Mitzvane grape. And then Alazani is another one.
Yeah, that's Manavi. And just like we said, Manavi is actually a microzone, but that produces really unique wine. So having Mitzvane grape coming from a different region doesn't have the same characteristic. Alazani is not a PDO, but it's a region. It's a table wine that everybody's is one of the most popular, also and known varietals.
Okay, so I watched in that 60 Minutes what do you call it, like a docu series or documentary, like a short, I guess. Was very interesting, and
right.
it was they mentioned that I guess there was an American that bought into the land there, and we kind of were talking about him and how the farmers were able to grow these grapes that I don't remember if it was a certain amount of quantity or how many acres of, or area of land that they could continue to grow wine, but they were the ones that really kept these indigenous varietals alive and were able to keep them going, which is absolutely fascinating to me. That's a real rich history there.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, there was a time where uh, Georgia was under the communist control, and they figured that they wanted to industrialize and the winemaking and just standardize. And they said, okay, these are like 3 or 4 or 5 varietals that you produce, and they kind of almost destroyed everything else. Luckily, there's a lot of people that went hunting for these varietals that were growing in people's yards and homes, and they built that library. So they're working on bringing them back, and that's one of the things we did with our wines as well. Is we brought some of the more rare grape varietals like Khikhvi Qvevri is another one that just came in. You get to try it soon. And Manavi. Manavi is not a common wine that's, it's not a big production either. So it's,
most of the white productions are Kakheti, and most of the red production is Saperavi. But we really wanted to have a diverse portfolio that reflected not just the variety of styles that Georgia has, but the extreme diversity of their indigenous grape populations.
Why you created your own label and how you go about finding the different producers that you want behind the label of different varietals or areas, instead of like importing wines that already exist.
With the first one, it was very special. I was talking to my priest, and he happened to mention, it's like, did you know about this Stylite monastery? And I was like, no, I don't. And it just so happened that it was the time I was looking to find a brand name for that wine. So it felt like it was God's way of telling me what to name it that way. So and what's really special about this monastery, it's like about 400 feet tall. It's a huge pillar, and they have like a church on top of it. And these monks have been living there for many, many years. And whenever there'd be attacks, they would all go up and hide in the on the pillar. It's a very beautiful place. It's actually amazing. If you ever have a chance to look into it, it's a place to visit for sure.
Nice. Sounds amazing.
With the Silk Road, we wanted to really explain, again, what that meant, the message of what Georgia is as far as it relates to the wine. So that's why we didn't want to go with any other Marani or some other winery name, because it didn't tell the story, and we wanted to make that our mission to educate people, because a lot of people don't know where is Georgia. Where's the birthplace of wine? Most people think it's like Italy or France or Greece or something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't even show up on the WSET.
Yeah,
we're working on that.
Yeah. And if it does, then I missed it.
Yeah, they don't test it, right? Because there's so many different grape varietals,
Yeah.
right? And so many different, especially when you get into the more natural styles of wine, like Qvevris, where the skin contact and exposure oftentimes creates a little bit of discrepancy between each bottling. So it's a lot harder to be like, this is a Bordeaux from 2013 because the sun was really harsh that year, and therefore it over caramelized the sugars in the grapes. Therefore, the alcohol content is 1% higher than normal. You
Right.
can't do that in the same way. But we also get to enjoy the beauty and the bounty of what is a natural product. These are a product of a terroir and an earth that's been kind of untouched for a long time in terms of being able to produce these unique varietals, and so it's something that's all its own, and I think deserves as much validation and attention as what the Italians and French wines are getting.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious, as COVID came to play, what kind of techniques or how did you guys shift during that time to kind of get you through the next year and a half or so? Did you go to social media and try to hit direct to consumer and educate kind of in that way?
Well, the number one thing we hired our biggest asset and the genius that helped with our marketing plan. Esmeralda Strike is our marketing director, and she kind of made this happen for us. It's one of those things is no matter how good your wine is, if your wine is on the shelf and nobody knows about it, it's not going to sell. It's not going to go anywhere. But she's the one that really helped develop our brand, our marketing strategy, and not just for our brand, but she's actually been incremental in helping all of Georgian wine, in the sense that we've presented a marketing plan to Georgian National Wine Agency, as well as the Minister of Agriculture of Georgia a few times, and they've taken some of our concepts for marketing Georgian wine in and implemented it with the marketing company that they hired to help promote Georgian wine in the United States.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome. So, do we want to get into a tasting or?
Yeah, let's taste some wines.
Okay, let's do it. So, we're going to start with Manavi.
We'll start with Manavi. Yes. The yellow label.
The yellow label.
So for this one, would you like us to describe to you what you should be tasting, or do you want to give your first impressions and then we'll tell you what the typical results are?
Oh, you want to test me?
Well, this isn't on the WSET. There's no testing here at all. It's just whatever your experience is.
I'm getting lemon and apricot, so you can kind of see like the color is really pretty, fairly clear and a nice yellow color. The little floral, like floral notes, white flower notes, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of peachy kind of lychee sort of stone fruit, like the chewy, nectarine kind of dried nectarine kind of flavor. Yeah, it smells delicious. It smells really good. So how was this wine made?
So this wine is made with 100% Mitzvane grape. It's aged in stainless steel for 6 months, I believe. And it's a very pure expression of what the grape is doing all on its own. You'll notice the texture on it is something akin to I don't know, am I spoiling it for you? I'm sorry. You're fine. Okay, now the texture, yes. The texture she is experiencing, everyone at home, is like that of an unoaked Chardonnay. So you get some of that more intense viscosity. It's a little bit thicker on the palate, but it doesn't have those over oaky or vanilla-y notes that are really prone to come out of like the Napa Valley Chardonnays. It's also got enough acidity in it to brighten and balance it out, so it doesn't feel flat. So I like to think of it as the mix between the unoaked Chardonnay and like a little bit of a Sauvignon Blanc, where that acidity kind of pops out. You get those tropical fruit notes. And one of the things that people say to me a lot when I'm serving this wine is that I typically only drink reds, but I like this. Something about it is just like the texture, mouthfeel.
Mouthfeel, yeah. It's definitely got a great mouthfeel. It's not thin. It's got a real nice viscosity to it. I've never tried anything quite like this before. And I absolutely love it. Yeah, I could see it's almost, you're right. It's a cross between a Chard and a Sauvignon Blanc, because you do have the acidity. And I don't know if there's a little bit of tart in there as well. So, it's just kind of has all different layers of, it's not really complex, but there's different layers that you can kind of experience throughout the journey of a,
Yeah,
of
it's
a,
not going to
of a,
open
of a
up
drink.
in the same kind of way as maybe the amber that we'll get into next. But I mean, I could drink this wine every day and just be pleased with it.
Yeah, you with or without food, you don't.
But it's also great with all
lovely.
kinds of food, right? Like this is a great blue cheese wine, or a really good like seafood and pastas, or even like light cheeses like goat cheese, or brie.
Yeah, now you're making me hungry. I wish I had a charcuterie here of all these different flavors, and I could try them all together. It's, that's.
and this is.
Yeah.
When we do the next video with the new wines, you can be sure to be prepared.
Yeah, actually, Manavi is a huge success in Florida. They especially in the summer, hot summer day, it's very refreshing, crisp type of wine that by the pool just is perfect. And I think we've won quite a few awards with this. And the first one of the first ones, we were picked up by the magazine, Wine and Spirits magazine, that wrote about Manavi and Alazani, and since when we won silver medals in Texas Tech, some
I can see why
gold medals.
It's a well-made wine,
so
it's very good.
Yeah, it's really.
Yeah, congratulations on that wine. That's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely one you don't see as often out of most Georgian wine importers.
Yeah, this is not a very common Georgian wine that's brought into the United States.
What's the price point?
Oh, what are we retailing it for right now?
They're in different shops, but plus $16 plus or minus.
Okay.
Depending on who's working on it.
So 15 to 20 selling it? Maybe a little closer to 15.
Oh, yeah.
So it's $14.99 on our website right now, and you can order the wines directly on our website and get them shipped straight to your house, with the exception of like 9 states, which are weird about it.
Yeah, they need to get over that.
But we're also in, I believe, 88 different retail locations across Texas and Florida right now. So you can find us out and about.
Yeah, so ABC is one of the biggest chains, but we also have many smaller mom and pop shops, boutiques, wine stores, European wine stores. And in Texas, we're in one of the largest retail chains. As a Texan, HEB is amazing. And Central Market, as well. And then Specs. Yes, Specs carries some of the brands as well. Not all over, but it's a combination. So we're in Texas, probably in over 200 locations, 200
That's great.
Stores.
That is awesome. So I can buy this when I get home in Texas too. That's awesome. Yay! Because that white wine was fabulous. Yeah, this is going to be a regular rotation around here.
Well, would you like to add into the complexity and move into the next stage?
Yes, I really want to get into this amber wine.
Oh, yeah. All right. You can see everyone with the color there. Here we have an amber wine. And there's some debate over whether we should call it orange wine or amber wine. Georgians specifically tend to like the term amber, and especially here in Florida, when we try to tell people that we have orange wine, their assumption is that we're making fruit wine.
Really?
Which is about it. Yeah, like this is wine made from oranges. So I've never had that before.
They don't know wine.
And it's like, no, this could be like the most farthest thing from what we are doing right now. But that's okay. And then we do a whole education.
Well, rosé wine
but for
is
anyone
not
who
made from
don't know,
roses.
yeah,
Right? That's like the same analogy, right?
right,
I mean,
yeah,
it's like
yeah. At least they have an apostrophe on theirs to make it different. Maybe if we did orange with an
I think you should
apostrophe at
call
the
it
end, it would be
l'orange.
okay.
L'orange.
L'orange.
You know, the French make everything better. L'orange. It's got a little ring to it. There's
It
a
does.
lot of
I like it.
I don't know how many, but another podcast that I had, Andrew with War Room Cellars, he's all in on orange wine, and it's fantastic. It's so exciting to me. I think he's saying we want a red, white, rosé, and orange category, and I hope he's right, because I think this is got a place. It's got its place. It's going to take some time, and you know, we have some education to do. But yeah, I think.
Yeah, it certainly does. But I love orange wine too, and it was because Silk Road had amber wines that I came to work for them in the first place.
Wow.
I think it's just a incredible category that we haven't had enough access to yet, and now we get to be a part of leading the charge of bringing this into the U.S.
Yay!
So yeah, let's talk about flavors on this one. This one is I mean, all of the Qvevri wines for us are very interesting on the palate, and open you up to new possibilities of what you think wine could be. This one hits a little bit like a sherry,
definitely.
In some ways. And if you take a look at our wine pairing wheel being brought up here, I'll actually set it up on ours as well. Not that Khikhvi. It's actually the other one. Sorry, if you rotate through, that's our new still version. This is the one that has Qvevri at the end of it, just above it. Yeah, over on the right. No, that's launch. Yeah, I know all of these names. They all start with the K and the H, and it's like, which one is the sound that have the middle in it? So yeah, here we have our descriptions here. We compare it to a Sauvignon Blanc, but not in a traditional still sense. I think this is really like a Sauv Blanc that has gone through skin contact and what that brings out, where you kind of get some of the lighter notes. The acidity is dulled slightly. And then you get these complex notes of lemongrass and citrus. And it feels a little bit like drinking a slightly tannic green tea.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I'm sure that most of your viewers are familiar with what skin contact is in the process, right? It's like essentially an inverse rosé where they're allowing white wines to have contact to the skins, whereas normally they would be stripped out. But what ends up being specific about Georgian skin contact wine is that you have the big clay vessel made with the components that Yanick was talking about earlier. And then it's actually typically buried in the ground, where it sits for at least 6 months in order to have the Qvevri designation.
For white wines, it's 6 months and roughly 2 months for the red wines. But one of the things that's actually they also do with white wines or the amber wines is when somebody has a child born, they usually do a Qvevri and they lock it up and wait about 16 to 20 years. Back then it was kids get it. Well, people get married around 16, but now it's much older. But for age wise, so it could easily go to a 16 to 20 years in Qvevri, and then they drink that wine for a wedding or something like
that. 16 years, wow! And just leave it sealed. Don't check on it. Don't do anything. Just leave it sealed.
And Qvevri's have a really unique shape. You can see on our bottle kind of the taper here, or even our old logo there on the back. And what ends up happening is all of the seeds and skin press themselves down, and it actually naturally filters the wine. And so you actually don't even have to strain out the top or the bottom bit. You just pull from the top, and all of the skin and seeds falling, creating this gravity pull, naturally filters the wine out.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then you can pour to the bottom and use that really intense bit to make into chacha. And chacha is a very, it's like Italian grappa, except for whatever reason, it's much smoother in Georgia.
Well, it's been sitting there for 16 years.
It's covered.
Not every one of them has gone through that process, but yeah.
But the thing about this shape, what really helps the Qvevri winemaking is as the bubbles go up, and they kind of create its own rotation and mixing as fermentation goes on. So it's very that kind of shape is very crucial to the winemaking as well. You can't have the same effect if you just had like cylindrical shape, and it wouldn't do the same thing.
And that's a big thing that separates this style of winemaking from more popular modern styles of amphora, which are just clay vessels that are then placed on the shelf, right? Specifically because of the way the shape works, it has to be buried because we are not standing wine on this point. But that's not part of the process for other people that are just using clay vessels as a form of aging.
And the ground then helps it keep the temperature stable. So it's also playing a secondary role in it, stabilizing it and helping it come out the perfect way.
Which of the wines that are produced in Georgia are aged in a Qvevri?
Which wines are aged in that?
Like, is 80% of the wines
From no, it's a much smaller number. It's getting bigger nowadays as there's more interest, but most of the wine that was produced, and that's due to the the influence of the Soviet Union, where they mass produced wine in stainless steel, and with just a few great varietals, and kind of almost destroyed the
authenticity and integrity. But now we're kind of bringing things back. Certainly, Qvevri winemaking and skin contact is a media darling because it's something very uniquely Georgian. But I think one thing that we as a company are trying to express out there also is that it's not just that style of winemaking. The Georgians have been making wine in the more modern European style for over 200 years. So they developed these more contemporary styles, and now they're using it on their native grapes in ways that produces very consistent and delicious wines that we haven't had access to in the Western world up until very, very recently.
When you say modern, are you saying they use different types of oak aging as well?
Oak aging is definitely incorporated. We have the Mukuzani is one PDO that it's aged in French oak for at least 8 months. In some situations, they use other stainless steel, and some use different styles or types of oak and incorporate those into their winemaking styles.
Nice. Well, I could listen to this for forever. It's so interesting to me. I can't believe they just take the stems in the grapes and throw it in this Qvevri for 16 years.
Yeah, ideally they do pick out most of the stems. I think that you don't throw all of it in, because then what happens if you don't trim too many of the stems is you end up with a lot of tannins. which can be very intense. It's really good with food. And that's one thing, especially with people that maybe have tried an orange wine and they're like, this is really funky. I don't even know where to like place this in a memory in my mouth. I think food is so, so important, because when Georgians are sitting down and drinking wine, they're not just drinking wine, they're eating it with food. They're having a big meal or a supra.
Yes.
And especially like really salty foods, intense cheeses or sardines, things that really pack that umami punch, or Kalamata olives, things in that nature that'll make your mouth salivate with the salinity. Those make the wines just blossom, because the tannins actually work to strip and satisfy and kind of make your mouth thirsty again, with the ability to taste those intense foods for the first time every bite.
Yeah, no, I haven't tried it yet, so I was just trying to.
Oh, you're still sitting there smelling.
It smells good. Well, it's kind of evolving. I mean, now,
yeah,
it does smell like rich nectarines. Like it's almost a more intense flavor of the first one. But you're right, it has kind of like that aged sherry, the sherry kind of flavor or notes to it.
Right.
But it still has that tropical kind of, again, like dried nectarine flavors or smell to it. Yummy. Oh, that is really fun. No, that's really fun. It's different.
A lot of people say that if you were to drink this wine with your eyes closed, you might think it's a red wine, because it's got some of the strong tannins and stuff, and are not used to tannins in white wine. Yeah. Oh.
Again, it's got that thicker mouthfeel to it. Kind of ends. It doesn't have like a really long finish. It's kind of a short finish, but it's got the notes up front, like a I don't want to say tart, but a little tart, like a dry tart punch to it at the end, which is really fun, and you can really play with that, I'm sure, with a lot of different types of foods.
Yeah, and as you kind of pointed out, it evolves. One of my favorite things to do with an amber wine is I'll open it up at the beginning of the meal, and we'll taste it with the appetizers. And then we'll let it sit for a little bit, and then we'll taste it 30 minutes later with the entrees, and it'll be totally different. So much more this or that. And, maybe you may not enjoy the wine as being your favorite thing at every stage, but it's an experience every single time.
Well, this is a 2017. So,
yeah. And like I said, the amber wine has a very long shelf life. We've tried some of the wines from 2010, 2009, and they were just incredible. How well they age, and how much they evolve is amazing, and the things that hard to really explain without trying it. But
we're so used to aging with red wine. Oh yeah, we kind of think like after 4 years of white wine's just probably gone bad. But Georgians don't necessarily think that.
Well, they're not trained to. They have 16-year-old wine. It's incredible to me. Do you think it's because it has such low oxygen contact for whatever months you put it in there for? Does that kind of set the stage for it being able to age a little longer?
I think part of it is that it's changing your expectation of what you're looking for out of the wine. And especially when we have like these young, lively, bright white wines, the second that they maybe start to dull out a little bit, we feel like they're past their prime, right? And then they're not good anymore. But with the Qvevri wines, you're expecting the flavors to evolve and grow. And there's actually something there that is helping to manifest that and grow those flavors. It's not just getting worse, but actually they're awakening a little bit. So I think there's more for more room for growth in the Qvevris than there are in just this the non-skid contact whites.
Right.
Well, that was lovely. And what does that retail for a similar price point or?
$25.99. That one's a little bit more. Yeah.
One of the reasons why Qvevri wines tend to be a little bit more expensive is because of the process of winemaking. It's very labor intensive. There's a lot of work that goes into it. That's pretty much, I would call it like handmade wine, natural from the beginning to the end, just, no additives. And that's what we love about this one. It's just clean wine.
Right, the vessel's made by hand. The grapes are handpicked in the field by people that live in the local towns. Then everything is put together and like very specifically watched. The vessels are cleaned by people, and some of them are actually so big that a whole person can fit inside of them. So they can clean with them. We have a great video of that on our Instagram if you guys want to check it out.
Yeah, and they use ancient techniques. Through the knowledge, like they use the bark from the specific trees that are like antibiotics to clean the vessels inside. So it's still that traditional old way of winemaking and maintaining Qvevris, because it's every cycle of wine they have to do it over and over to make sure everything is just right.
Awesome. I do believe I've seen an entire human inside of one of those things, and it caught me off guard because you know that they're big, but you're like, wow, there's a human in there. It's pretty big.
But they hold on average the ones that we're getting our wine from about 1,300 bottles.
Oh wow, that's
so
huge.
in one.
Yeah.
We've actually purchased one Qvevri. They had one Qvevri that was a rosé, the first organic rosé they made, and so we bought the whole thing.
Yeah, certified organic and biodynamic. We were so excited about it.
Yeah.
That's really hard to get out there. There's so many steps and processes. And while we say that these are natural wines, we don't have the ability to get the organic certifications on every one of them. And for most of the people in Georgia, they don't care because this is just the way you grow.
Right.
Right. Why would they go out of their way to certify that they do the things that everyone always has done? We're just kind of special here in America where we like to shortcut way more than we should do.
Yeah, we want certifications on everything. So, well, I guess it's because there's so many different levels of people making wines that you want to be sure you want to know what you're drinking. But yeah, I guess I get it. If you're just drinking mostly wines made in your local area, you just know you already know it's certified organic. But it would be interesting if that, I wonder if that is a selling point here in the U.S. for you guys. I don't know the answer to that.
It definitely helps. I think the fact that we had at least one wine that did receive that certification, and then we brought in a lot of other wines from that same winery. They just hadn't gone through the extra money and steps to make sure each individual batch was certified. So I think that kind of shows that our ethos is on track. And we're hoping that as we move more towards the future, that we'll be able to get more certifications on our future imports. But for right now, the most important thing is getting the juice into people's mouths. Sure. Yeah.
So speaking of which,
do you want to move into what would be our most luxurious dry red, or Saperavi Reserved, which we introduced earlier this year.
Nice.
Black label, very chic.
Very chic. I like it.
So this one retails for $45. So it's a little bit pricier than the others, but a high luxury product. Silky smooth with just enough tannins to make it hold up to stuff. You get those notes of like deep currants and cherries. this one is aged in oak for 8 months, and it's a very selective group of grapes from pretty much all over Kakheti, right? So it's a blend of what they selected as the best grapes at the harvest from the year in Kakheti to make this particular wine.
2016 is actually a very good vintage as well. There's multiple wineries that have amazing 2016 Saperavi, and but I think we picked one of the best, and this it's actually a very interesting story, but it was we were for a hunt for one of the best wines, and we found it.
Nice. No, it's very good. Great on the nose. It smells almost, perfumey. Not quite full body, but full body, like you can tell it's got a lot of nice structure to it. And then when you actually taste it, it's a lot lighter than I thought it was going to be. Not like a Pinot lighter, but it's a little bit lighter than like a traditional cab, I guess you could say.
Right, you're expecting to be like super punchy, or like something like a Syrah, but it mellowed out, right? Like it's a lot easier to drink than you might expect out of something that has such a big aroma and alcohol. And actually, decanting it changes it quite drastically as well. So if you let it sit for 10, 20 minutes, it devolves a lot as well. And I've had that Saperavi is amazing grape in it with 2009 vintage, and the way it aged was just unbelievable. It was almost like drinking dark liquid chocolate. That kind of as it kind of ended up being like that. And I think one of the things we can tell you, the Saperavi grape varietal is very unique. It's a Tanter-year grape. That's one of the reasons it's so dark is because not only the skin is dark, but also the flesh is red as well. And it's a thicker skin grape varietal, which naturally has the anti pesticide, and it's more resistant to things. So it naturally kind of grows.
All right. So yeah, I was just saying, you're right. It does kind of have like a Syrah nose, where it's kind of, you can smell the spice, cassis, kind of a darker berry, and then you get this kind of a peppery sort of finish to it, which is really nice. I've definitely not tasted a wine like this before ever. It's like there's different elements of different grapes kind of coming into one, it's just a unique, lovely experience. The texture is great. The finish is great. Yeah. I can see this. And then you said this is a 2016. So, it's definitely, I've got some time in the bottle here. I didn't check to see what the alcohol is.
Should be on 13. So,
14, I think.
14, yeah.
So that's, right in line there. So yummy. So this is so fun. All right. So the fourth and final tasting.
Yes, the Alazani. You want to talk a little bit about the process, how they make Alazani wine?
Yeah, sure. So Alazani. So one of the ways that we have 3 different semi-sweet wines. One is Alazani. We also have Kismaroli and Panchkara. But how they make these semi-sweet wines, one of the processes, they wait till the sugar, a certain amount of sugar is converted into alcohol, and then they stop the fermentation by lowering temperature to 0 degrees or 32 degrees Fahrenheit or close to it, which leaves the natural sugars in the wine. So there's no additives to it. There's no added sugar to it. It's a naturally grape left residual sugar in it that makes it semi-sweet. And my wife calls it a no headache wine because she can drink it and not worry about it the next day.
Oh, that's awesome. I like no headache wines.
That is not a guarantee.
Yeah,
But yeah, Alazani is actually our most popular wine. It's our number one seller because it's just a super accessible table wine. It does not require other food context in order to be delicious. It has kind of a sweet start and a dry finish, so it doesn't feel cloying the way that some other sweet wines would.
I have never tried anything like this before. It is a completely different experience. When you talk about it being, semi-sweet, I expected it to feel sweeter, but it's not. It feels so natural, natural to the flavor of it. From the nose on through, and when you smell it, it smells a little bit like a heavier, darker wine. Because it's got your slightly darker notes on it. I don't know if I'm getting tobacco. Is that possible? I could get some of those dark notes in there.
Yeah. Well, this is 100% the same grapes as the last wine you just tried. So they're both made with Saperavi. So all those notes are going to be in there in the same way. They just are going to manifest slightly differently.
Yeah, that is smooth from start to finish. I'm still tasting it. 30 seconds, 45 seconds later, and it is very smooth, and that's a silky one. I wouldn't even call it sugar.
Yeah.
I'd call it silk because it's just smooth. Silk Road. There you go. We've come full circle, folks.
But this is except for me with the brand. Now a pan out.
No. Yeah, no, that's like velvet. That's lovely. I get it why that's a big seller. Because again, you can drink that on its own, or I'm sure it's fabulous with food as well.
Yeah. It's also our most accessible wine, price wise, at $13.99.
Okay. Oh, it's yummy. Yay! I don't want to say it's my favorite, but I kind of want to say it's my favorite because I like them all. But I get it. That's such a lovely experience.
It's our number one seller. Just it kind of goes to any palate can enjoy it. It can also pair very well with big variety of foods and cheeses, and
really good with spicy dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we were creating the wine pairing, we were trying to find comparative varieties for all of our different wines. And we actually kind of ran into a problem here with the Alazani because there are not good representations of slightly sweet red wines that are out there. Most of them like Rosso Dolce or, things that are like a port. Like these things are way sweeter than what we have here. We ended up choosing Dornfelder, which is semi-sweet Italian wine. Is it German? It was German. But yeah, there aren't great expressions of and even like semi-sweet whites, right? It's either like very intensely like sickly sweet, like Moscatos, or even like Rieslings, which could have been so good and so dry. But I think that this is a great example of how you can have a balanced sweetness in your wine. And especially because it's naturally occurring sweetness, natural sugar from the grapes. It's not just pouring stuff into the bottle like what we do with a lot, like whatever $2 chuck is, how much is in there. That is not actually and you know that the only product in this bottle is you taste what that farmer's product, that agricultural product actually created, and now it's in here.
It's awesome. I think that with our consumer base here in the United States liking that sweet red wine, that's got a lot of potential because you can cross over to people that don't I'm not a sweet wine person. I'll drink a Moscato or, a Sauterne or something every once in a while, but, it's not my go-to, but this is something I would definitely drink a little bit more often than normal. Obviously, I don't want it to be, but it kind of is my favorite just because of the experience of drinking it is so different. I mean, all of them are very different, but that one was just like a silky, velvety journey. It was very lovely. It was nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing these with me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you for sharing them with everyone else. And hopefully some of your listeners will be maybe coasting these along with you somewhere along the way while they're listening.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's another idea we could do down the road maybe.
One of the things we're also developing, because we have such a big portfolio now, is bringing in flights into restaurants where they can try Georgian journey through a flight wine and try 5-6 wines at a time and kind of see what they like. So it's coming soon. We're working on the thing that for restaurants.
That's a great idea, especially if you can work with the chef to get any kind of semi-Georgian type foods to kind of pair with it. Would be that'd be a lot of fun. Or a wine dinner. Could do a wine dinner from different participating, restaurants. So talking about that just a little bit on the on-premise in terms of incorporating it into different restaurants. So for example, you're going to expect French wines at a French restaurant or Italian wines at a Italian restaurant. So what's the key to success here to showcase the Georgian wines? Is there any particular style of cuisine, or is it just everybody?
Well, actually, Keaton did quite a few dinners that were pairing Georgian wine. I can tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I've tried a couple different things at different restaurants all over the state. One not probably closest to you is in DeBerry, and that's called the Salted Goat. The owner reached out to us because she had studied abroad in Georgia when she was younger and wanted to find a way to bring a little bit of her personality to her menu. So now they have Silk Road Wines by the glass, which is really cool. We did a pairing dinner with them where they made traditional Georgian foods, but it's also just on their menu every day. We've also done a couple different tasting flights where we come in and do a special for 2 nights and just introduce 4 or 5 different Georgian wines that night. And everyone gets to try the whole gambit. But I mean, it's really about figuring out the right space for someone who can hand sell the product, right? And when I worked in New York, it was a lot easier to access the types of people that would really get excited about Georgian wine. In Florida and Texas, you don't get to lead with the hook of, oh, I have this thing that's super trendy and is on every menu in town. No, you have to start with education first. And you have to really invest in finding a champion within the organization that's not just going to get excited about it with you while you're there tasting the wine with them, but that is going to every day go out and be how excited they are about this thing they discovered so they can share it with someone else who then shares it with someone else. That's really the only way that this works. It's really about people in terms of the on-premise stuff. But I personally prefer to pursue chef-driven restaurants, places that are chef-owned if possible, because those will really care about the palettes and the pairings and the combinations, and they want to discover something unique and that is going to bring what's special about their curation to the menu. And we have the ability to help contribute to that a little bit in our own unique way.
And recently we also had a food pairing at an Italian restaurant, and it was kind of amazing how well the Italian dishes paired with the wine as well. So
I don't know, or even like that Indian restaurant, right? Like there are some really interesting things out there. And obviously it's really hard to walk into a Spanish tapas bar and say, hey, I know you're selling all these Spanish wines that you can't get anywhere, but you should sell these Georgian wines that you can't get anywhere. But there's definitely the right audience for the creative chefs and restaurateurs that really care about what they're serving. Because the ethos is there, the story is there, and the product is good. It's just about someone who's willing to invest in sharing the time with their customers. Yeah. And I think those who have done it have had tremendous success, and other people don't necessarily have the time of day for it, and that's okay too.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not for everybody, but you can't be, you don't want to be everything to everybody. You want the right places and fit in the right concepts that make sense and that they're behind you on it. So I think that's totally fine. But I think you're right. It's going to be not a little bit more non-traditional in how you approach different accounts. Like you said, it's more of an educational component to it. And I'm sure that once they actually have the time to try them, it's the answer's in the bottle, right? So
yeah, and we always find someone likes at least one of our wines. Like no matter what your palate, there's something in this lineup that's going to invigorate.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I've seen it personally over and over. We actually had a big promotional event at Central Market in Texas a couple of years ago, and we did the March grill event that during which we had 10 days in 10 central markets where we sold over half a container of wine. People just we set records every day about how much wine we sold. And it was literally every person that tasted the wine found something that they wanted to take home, at least a bottle, if not a few bottles.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I can see it. The proof is in the bottle. So I guess we're kind of concluded then with the wine tasting. So do we want to go back into your journey and kind of how you got here? I know we talked a little bit about it, but
if I could, I'd like to just show off something really quick.
Yeah, of course. Before
we go to that, because we just got these, and I'm very, very excited. We've been waiting a long time. These are, that didn't work as well as. All right, we're going to lift them up one at a time. So we have these new sparkling wines from Georgia. This is not very common in terms of U.S. importation stuff, but we have access to them. We have a brand new sparkling rosé that's made with 70% Riccatelli and 30% Saperavi. Then we have a amber sparkling, and all these are using a secondary fermentation period, so it's similar to like a pet nat. So it's lightly sparkling. Okay. And this one is a blend of Riccatelli, Mitzvani, Keaton, and Chardonnay. So they're really kind of getting exploring, but you have this beautiful
it is
amber color too.
Great color.
And then here we have an extra brut, which is a mix of Riccatelli and Mitzvani. So it's more like a champagne style. And so we just got all of those, as well as brand new Khikhvi and Keaton and the beautiful blue and Tiffany.
Yeah, very pretty. Awesome. Yeah. So you're expanding and growing.
I just wanted to work. We are expanding and growing. All of those wines have been on the pairing wheel since we got that printed, but we have been waiting for them to finally come in so we could share them with everyone else. And it just happened yesterday. So
it was a great day. Very busy, unloading, but we got a pretty good celebration with our team because those wines just are amazing, and we can't wait to get the feedback from everybody. But I think people are just gonna fall in love with these wines.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm curious about the sparkling.
Okay.
With that, I will wave goodbye until next time. Okay.
This week's episode was produced by Fedora J Productions.